Hey guys, Ben Painting. Today we're back once again for another video, and this time we are here at Herefordshire Raceway for the first round and probably the only round I'm going to do of the Open Grand Prix Championship that they have running. Now this is an event that I usually tend to come and do once per year, maybe twice, just for a bit of track time and a bit of fun ahead of our round of or a couple of rounds here of SRK later on in the year. And we're just going to jump straight into the first heat and just show you guys what happened. Now before we get into the rest of the footage, if you do enjoy this one, can you please leave a like on the video down below, as I really do appreciate it. And if you're new to the channel, if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button, as it really does help me out. Now the format for this one, we had two heats randomly assigned. One for me was right at the back in 10th position, followed by a first position start in the second heat, and then obviously each sort of finishing position then relays into a consequenting final. So for this one there is going to be an A and B final, so we're just going to see where we end up, as every time we seem to come here we end up in the B final. So I was hoping to try and get into the A final today. We were also in the novice category, which is for people that don't usually come up to the track, which I think is fair enough, as we don't really have too much track time here compared to some of the local drivers, and just wanted to try and get our head down and see what we can do. Now you can see straight away we're trying to make our way up through the pack as quickly as possible, moving our way from 10th up into 8th. We had a little bit of a ruckus with the driver in 10th position after we were able to overtake them, but we were able to keep up with the pack and not lose too much time. So we're now up into 8th position here and trying to rain down on some of the other drivers that are up ahead of us. There were quite a few decent drivers here on the day who obviously come to the track quite a bit, so just wanted to try and stamp our authority here and just do the best that we could. Now opting to take a bit of a wider line here, coming down towards the second hairpin on the track, just to try and get a better run, looking for an overtake. Unfortunately we didn't quite have it on this occasion, but instead just trying to stay to the inside line here, giving us a free position up into 7th place. Now I didn't realise at the time that I had actually squeezed the driver behind a little bit too wide into the wall, so we do actually get a black and white flag or warning flag for aggression or contact as we come across the start finish line. But we're now up into 7th. I felt it was a fair move, so I didn't decide to slow down and let the driver back through. You can see the board there on the left hand side. We come across the line with 36.099, which isn't exactly a quick lap, but obviously whilst we're contending with some of the other drivers on the grid and we're having a bit of a race, I was still pretty happy with this regardless. Now again, just trying to keep the momentum up in the karts as much as possible. Obviously these karts, they're very different to any other rental karts that I usually use, and you have to use a lot of steering angle just due to the fact that they're just quite understeery. So you can see here trying to be really stable with the wheel, but we are having to put in a lot of steering angle, especially coming through the double hairpin section of the track here. We come across the line on this lap with a bit more clean air of our fastest lap of the race so far, 35.588, and I do believe my fastest time in practice, we had a 5-minute practice, or 10-minute practice, sorry, before this, where we got a 34.8 second lap time, I believe, or 34.9. So that's sort of the times we were aiming for, but unfortunately I found the kart that I was using here just felt a little bit sluggish. Now I was trying to do the best that I could with the kart, obviously starting in last place, just trying to make as many moves as I could. And you can see here, trying to just size up the driver in front of us in 6th position. Any positions that we're able to gain is obviously going to give us more points going into the finals later in the day. And obviously due to starting in 1st place for the next heat, I knew that I was going to hopefully manage to stay near the front and get a good result there. Now the driver here in front of us just gives us a nice big gap up the inside, so we decided to slot the kart in there, take another free position up into 6th. Decided to defend a little bit here, sticking to the middle of the track and taking a tighter line just to ensure that we don't get switchback coming out of that second hairpin in that section there. And again, we're then able to take a bit of a narrow line coming around the latter stages of the track just to ensure that we preserve our position and not really leak a position that we just gained going into the latter stages of the race. Now you can see here we're coming across the line with a 36.309, and 6th position is essentially where we were then able to stay for quite a bit of this race. You can see that we're now in a bit of clean air, so I was hoping to get some decent lap times in, take some good clean lines and just try and make some headway towards the drivers up ahead of us. Going a little bit wayward into the second hairpin there and just losing a bit of momentum coming under the bridge, but we were still on for a decent time, and again just trying to use all the track that I could just to keep the momentum up in the car, keep my foot on the throttle as much as I could and use the brake as least amount as I could as well. But as we come down the start finish line here, we come across the line on this lap with a 35.555, but we do have the driver up behind who is able to just slot down the inside and take 6th position from us. I wasn't quite aware that they were that close, and unfortunately we just sort of gave up a free position there. Now again, I was trying to get the kart rotated quite quickly, wasn't used to the brakes too much here, and you can see that I'm just losing momentum out of each of the hairpins, and this is pretty much again where we managed to stay until we come towards the end, or the last few laps of the race. You can see our fastest lap so far is a 35.197 as we come across the line, and I can see that there was all sorts of a kerfuffle going on up ahead. I believe that this was actually from about 3rd down to 7th where I was, so I wanted to try and capitalise on this as much as I could, gain as many positions coming into the end of the race, taking the inside line once again, much like I did earlier in the race, giving the driver on the outside a bit more space, as I didn't want to just go and push them into the wall and get another sort of warning or penalty, which I probably would have got. Again, just staying more to the middle of the track to preserve the position that we're able to gain up into 6th, and I knew once again that the drivers up ahead were going to have a little bit more of a ding-dong battle, so there was still more positions to play for as we come towards the last couple of laps here. So coming into the first corner here, taking a nice narrow line this time, trying to almost cut off lengths of the track that we were using a bit more before, and again you can see the driver here taking a nice wide line, making a bit of a mistake here by trying to go around the outside or go near the wider line compared to the other driver, and then he decides to stick to the outside here, then moves back to the inside, gaining a free position, and I wanted to look to try and follow him through, but instead I decided to back off here and take the inside line going up and over the bridge, as I knew that this driver was going to get pushed out wide, and you can see here that we are able to use this to our advantage, gain a place once again up into 5th, obviously with a nice slow lap time once again. But we are in the midst of battle now, and I believe that this was in fact the last lap of this first heat, so I decided to go quite defensive here. I knew the 2 drivers up ahead had been battling for a couple of laps, so I wanted to try and make any moves stick if I could, and maybe gain another 2 positions to actually end up finishing this one on the podium. So you can see the driver up ahead is getting a little bit frustrated here, looking for any move they can going into this last lap. They try and make a send into the last couple of corners here, managed to make the move stick, but the driver who was in 3rd is having absolutely none of it, sends it going down the bridge once again, pushes the driver off track, and this actually gives us enough of a run to go round the outside up into 4th, and actually according to the timing line we came across the line at the exact same time, which didn't look like it on the camera, but this did in fact give us 3rd position, which I was really happy with. And now we're going to jump into the second heat and see how we do. Not going to hang about here at all. Jumping into the second heat, we were starting in pole position, wanting to get away as quickly as possible and get some good laps in. However, I found pretty quickly that this kart was very sluggish off the line, and you could see immediately James Kimberley has been able to come from 3rd place to actually get the jump on us coming out of the first corner, and there's absolutely nothing I could do. You can see immediately I'm thinking, what the hell's going on? But this is pretty much how the whole race went. I'm not going to put any lap times here. As you can see, every lap as we come round, he's just getting further and further ahead. He's just escaping more and more, and there's absolutely nothing I could do. I was trying to put in the best laps I could, but every lap he was just escaping more and more, and then by the end of the race here you can see that he's managed to escape so far into the distance that we just sort of stuck in 2nd. So with that in mind, we obviously came 2nd in this one, 3rd in the first one, which then leads us on to the A final, where we actually were able to start in 3rd position for this one. Obviously I wanted to try and preserve this position if I could. In terms of novice drivers in our category, we were actually in 1st place, with Jamie Higgins in behind us in 4th, and I believe there was another driver behind us as well. I think it was Joshua Davis in 5th. So 3rd, 4th and 5th was all filled up with novice drivers. I knew that I had to get my head down, try and tag onto the guys up ahead. Wasn't really racing them, but I wanted to still try and put some pressure on them if I could, to just try and get away from the guys behind. However, unfortunately, once again, in this kart, we did end up getting in a cold one, and this just meant that we just were driving all over the place, and honestly, I just couldn't get used to the brakes in this one. They felt quite different compared to some of the other karts that I'd used throughout the day, or the other 2 or 3 karts that I'd used throughout the day, and I was just struggling a little bit at the early stages of the race just to adjust to it. You can see I'm driving some decent lines coming through the last sort of section of the track, but through the double hairpin section I was just all over the place, locking up a bit too much, and it was just losing all our momentum. You can see coming around and down the bridge section as well, we were just quite slow, to be honest, and it was just not really a lot I could do to keep up with the 2 guys up ahead. Obviously we've got James Kimberley shooting off into distance, much like he did in our second heat, taking nothing away from him. But again, you can see him just going all sorts of wayward, going through the first hairpin there in the middle section of the track, and it's just costing me a lot of time going into the second hairpin and then under the bridge. But we are also putting in some decent lap times regardless, trying to hit as many apexes as we can, just trying to preserve the momentum in the kart as much as we can, and we are just trying to be as quick as we can be. But you see we're coming across the line on this lap, 35.283, so faster than any of the laps I was able to do, or getting close to some of the faster laps that I was able to do in the other heats. But unfortunately, I still haven't been able to match the times that I was doing in practice, which I was a bit confused about, as I thought that throughout the day I'd obviously get quicker at the track and get a bit more comfortable, get acclimatized to the conditions. But unfortunately, it just didn't seem to be the case. I couldn't really match the times I was able to do in the kart I was given in practice, and therefore I was just losing time to the drivers up ahead. And you can't really see, I'm checking over my shoulder, but we did have Jamie Higgins right up behind us, pressuring us as well. We come across the line 35.115 second lap time here, and again you can see I'm just really beginning to get pressured, a bit frustrated with the car that I just can't really gain any time out of it. I'm trying to push it as much as I can, but it's just not really working for me as much as I really want it to. So you can see I'm using all the track there on the right hand side, even moving over to the right here, just to get as straight an exit as I can going under the bridge, using all the track on the right hand side once again, and trying to get a late apex coming into the hairpin before coming down the bridge once again, trying to straight line the bridge as much as I can. Obviously if you use too much steering angle there, it's just going to scrub the tyres coming down the cambered section of the track, and you're just going to lose a lot of time coming down the start finish straight. But we do come across the line once again, 35.091, so some pretty decent lap times, but we do skip ahead here until the later stages of the race. We believe that this is the last 3 laps where we're able to put in our fastest lap of the day. So here we're going to just ride on board with it. Our fastest lap so far is a 34.979, and now we're just going to try and get our head down. Obviously at this point, as I mentioned, we did have Jamie Higgins right up behind us, as he was there the whole race and he was pressurising us non-stop. So I was having to drive semi-defensively, but here was just an opportunity. Whilst I was looking over my shoulder, I gained a tiny bit of time on him on this lap, where I was able to just really push the car as much as I can. It had warmed up now at this point, and obviously just wanted to get the best lap time in as I could. Obviously taking the same sort of lines as I was earlier, trying to use a little bit less steering angle here just to try and preserve the momentum, and we do come across the line with a 34.925, which is nowhere near the quickest lap time of the day in any means. And you can see the guys up ahead, you can see James Kimberley and the driver in second place there have raced off into the distance by at least 10 seconds now at this point. But I was still really happy with this performance, obviously not coming to the track at all, and the last time I came here it was absolutely soaking in November last year. So to be able to come here, be on the pace immediately, having to drive a nice defensive race in the A final as well to hold on to this overall podium, coming down the bridge here for the final time to come across the line to claim P3 overall and P1 in class. However, unfortunately for me, this then turned into P3 overall. I didn't get first place in class, as I just got the 3rd place trophy. Bit of respect here with Jamie, a great race with him, had a really enjoyable time up at the track, and it's just something that I always have a lot of fun when I come to Hereford. But that does in fact bring us to the end of the video, so I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. If you have, can you please leave a like on the video down below if you have enjoyed it. And if you're new to the channel, if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button, as it really does help me out. We've got a lot of footage coming soon. We've got a double round from SRK at Formula Fast, so I hope you guys stay tuned for that one. But in the meantime, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.